So good evening and welcome to the Connection Cafe. Sorry, my mind went momentarily blank there for a moment. So yeah, good evening and welcome everyone to the MoreYoga Connection Cafe. And this is a wonderful opportunity to hear yoga journeys. Yoga Journeys is part of the Connection Cafe series, and Connection Cafe is about us connecting through the lockdowns that we've had. And Yoga Journeys was born from the Black Lives Matters protest, where MoreYoga wanted to amplify melanated voices. So I came up, I'm Yvonne O'Garro, I came up with the MoreYoga, the Yoga Journeys. So I'm really, really pleased this evening to welcome my dear colleague and friend from MoreYoga, Kat.
Hello, everyone. Hello. Lovely to be here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes. Because remember, this is going to be watched as well on YouTube. So, you know, it's all, you never know who's tuning in from where.
I never know.
So did you notice deliberately I didn't say your last name because I'd forgotten to check the pronunciation with you, and just as I was about to say, I thought I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because I didn't check it. So please, can you say your last name for us?
Yes, my last name is Madrilejo. So I know a lot of people actually don't say my last name. They just say Katrina or Kat, and that's it, because they can't pronounce my last name. But yeah, the last name's Madrilejo, and it's actually Spanish.
Okay.
But we can go into that later, I guess.
What does it mean?
I don't think it means anything. I know that there is a town in Spain that's similar to our last name. So kind of touching up, I guess, with heritage. So I'm from the Philippines, and a lot of last names in the Philippines are Spanish.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, so older generations can speak Spanish, but I can't. I don't know. Some words.
Do your parents speak Spanish?
I think they know more, but definitely their parents will know Spanish.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So welcome to Yoga Journeys, Kat. Thank you so much. So before we jump into the Yoga Journeys questions, we talked about you doing a 30-second lift pitch to introduce yourself. So if you're in a lift with someone and you had to say who you are, what you did, how would you introduce yourself?
Oh, this is a surprise one. I would say that I am a third daughter of 4, and I normally go to, I'm a dancer. That has been my go-to, but obviously that has changed. So I guess I'm just a mover now.
Okay, I like that. A mover.
I'm a mover, and I do love to be creative. So lots of passions that I can't pack into one thing. So I guess that's me, kind of a bit all over the place, but in a creative way.
Like that, a mover. I really like that description. So excuse me looking at my phone. My laptop's away for repair. I usually read the questions from the mini iPad, but I'm actually using the mini iPad as my camera tonight. So the mini iPhone has the questions. So ready to move into the Yoga Journeys questions?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, first one, you've kind of touched on it, but you can give us the full breakdown. Honoring our ancestors, please tell us your family lineage.
Right. So how far back do you want to go?
Far back do you want to take?
So my parents, so all of us actually, so as I said, I'm third of 4 sisters. So I've got 3 more sisters, 2 older, 1 younger.
Okay.
And we grew up in the Philippines, and we were born in the Philippines. My parents are 100% Filipinos, both my mom and dad, but 100% Filipino is like a bit of Spanish, a bit of Chinese, a bit of a mixture already anyway. But yeah, that's kind of the background of my parents. And then We moved here, I would say, when I was 14. I shouldn't have said that because then people would guess how old I am. I should have just said like a couple of years ago. So yeah, nearly 13 years, or maybe a bit more, something like that. So not, yeah, that it's kind of boring, I guess, that we're all just 100% Filipino, 100% Filipino, and then and then
absolutely not boring at all. Never, it cannot be boring. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so and age is a number. Doesn't matter if someone's worked it out. Yeah.
Because before people would ask me always like, oh, when did you move, or where are you from? I always have that backstory of, well, it's so hard for me. That's such a hard question to answer when they ask, where are you from? So before it would be like, oh, I moved here a year ago, 3 years, and it just increases and increases. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, that's actually been a while now. It's more than half of my life that I've been here, but I still go, you know, like a couple of years ago. But yeah, it's a hard question to answer, actually.
And does it differ depending, where your head's at when you're asked the question?
I always have this battle of, I remember when I first moved, I really felt that I didn't fit in at all. Different culture, different weather, and just weather itself is completely different. But then the more that I stayed, I realized that when I do go back to the Philippines, because I do go back, we try to go back once a year.
Lovely.
A family and all of that.
Yes.
But when I remember, the longer that I stayed here and I actually moved back to the Philippines, then I'm also kind of in between, like, oh, I feel like I've also missed a part of that. Like, I don't know, like even just, the slangs or kind of humor that I used to just kind of bounce off with my friends.
Yeah.
Now I go back and I'm like, oh, so I kind of always say that I'm in between. So up to now, like, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, you answer how.
I don't know if that answers your question, but
absolutely, because there's no
what the answer is when people.
Yeah. I think I lost you. Well, you lost me partway through there, but I think I caught the gist. There's no right.
I think we got disconnected for a bit.
Yeah, I think we did. But I heard you saying you don't know if that answers the question, but I'm saying there's no right or wrong. Have I lost you? I'm going to press pause because I think I've lost you. So we're back recording now after a little technical hitch. So back in the room, we are.
You've got a raised hand.
Yeah, I didn't mean to raise my own. But, so I'm just making sure. Yeah, it is definitely recording. Yes. Have you got recording on your end?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, just making sure I'm not using my usual laptop, so things feel slightly different. So back in the zone. So moving on now with the yoga questions, and I know you've got a real creative arm to your repertoire. So please feel free, even though they're yoga related questions, please do answer as fully as you want to capture everything that you do. So where, when, and with whom was your first yoga class?
First yoga class that I can remember. I don't know if it's actually my first, but I think probably is. It was, I was going to school in Chiswick, to West London, and I remember they opened a hot studio, hot yoga, and I actually didn't see it. It was my sister who invited me to go into the class. And they always have this offering of £30 for 30 days, that kind of
Right,
stuff.
right.
Yeah.
I remember those. I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah. So we went into a class, and that was the first time that I have actually experienced a hot class of anything. When was that though? I was young, maybe the first year or second year that I was in the UK. So maybe I was 14, 15. But at the time, I didn't enjoy it. At the time, I didn't enjoy it. Not actually, it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I would never leave a class. I would always finish something that I've started. I think at the time I was too young to appreciate what it was offering.
Right.
My background was in dance, and we were doing Bikram yoga. Sorry.
Right.
You know, they always have just a set
sequence. Yeah.
And do it all the time. And we did it for like not the full 30 days, but kind of every day. So after a while, I'm like, I don't know if this is for me, because I'm so used to moving. So after that, didn't go back to any classes anymore. And again, that's just me not being aware that there are actually different styles of yoga. I just thought that was yoga, and it was.
Yeah.
And then that was the first one. I think that. Are we going to more classes? But I can just continue my story, I guess.
If there's more to that story, please share it. Otherwise, let me know when you're done and we can move on to the next question.
I don't remember who the teacher was.
Okay. But it was in Chiswick. It was hot yoga.
It was with my sister. I don't think I would ever try something new by myself. So it was with my sister, my older sister. Didn't come back to it until I went into my professional training in dance. Right. And they had yoga as kind of a support and a conditioning class. And that's when I fell in love with it. I think that's probably the next question.
When was your dance training?
That was 2012.
Okay.
2011. Yeah.
Who did you train with?
So I went to London Contemporary Dance School. So they have different teachers, obviously, amazing teachers, like one of the best schools in the UK for contemporary dance. So that was I did my BA there, bachelor's, and I did my master's straight away, actually.
Oh, great. Wow. Excellent. Good for you. Okay. So it was the dance training that made you start taking it seriously. What was it that made you start taking notice?
It wasn't even that. It was dance training that introduced me to it, but I know that it was definitely my teacher that made me be like, oh my gosh, what is this? Like, it opened my eyes, it opened new emotions and way of moving.
Excellent.
And not necessarily physically way of moving, because some of the asanas are, contemporary dance is so free and creative anyway that you don't name a movement, you just move. But I actually didn't continue in dance because I found it so competitive and the industry was just not for me. And it was kind of self-destructive that you're always comparing yourself to other people and always battling, and that just constant cycle of, it wasn't healthy. I didn't feel like it was healthy for me. I know a lot of my classmates that have continued and they love it. But it was when yoga was introduced, I was like, oh, actually, I know my body and I know how to move depending on how I feel. And it's for me. It's literally just for me. Whereas the other stuff, I felt like I was presenting to other people or to someone else or to something else, a different emotion, a different this, but it wasn't really to my core. So that's when I fell in love with yoga, but that was credit to my teacher then.
Yes.
Really, because I thought yoga, like I said before, that yoga was just that.
Was Bikram.
Bikram.
Yeah. That was it, nothing else.
So
and you found out so much more. Okay.
I know, exactly.
So the dance has made you realize and fall in love with yoga. When did you then decide you wanted to teach yoga?
I actually was so in awe with that teacher. She became my supervisor for my dissertation. And I was so curious about breath, because a lot of teachers actually have told me that when I dance, I don't breathe or I don't breathe properly.
Okay.
And I remember going to a chiropractor. She was pressing on my belly and she's like, "Are you breathing properly? Like, it's so tense in there." So I actually wrote my dissertation about breath. And because I wrote my dissertation about breath, I was connected to that, my yoga teacher. So it's really just a lot of back and forth with each other and asking her journey and what led her to where she is now, that I was like, I want to do that. So after my training, I decided, okay, I'm going to do it. I'll just jump into it and dive into it. It got delayed for a year.
What, your yoga teacher training?
Yeah, my yoga teacher training, because, so as I said, my parents are Filipinos and they're quite strict in terms of going off on your own.
Right.
Yeah. So okay. I remember before, I knew already that I wanted to dive into my teacher training, but I decided to ease my parents into it. I just did a 1 week kind of workshop in Bali that was closer to the Philippines. So they were kind of like, okay, that's a bit, that's fine. Just, you know, baby steps. And then the year after, I still wanted to do it. So I went to India.
Amazing.
Yeah, did it.
Which part of India did you do your training?
I went to Rishikesh.
Okay. Which school?
It's called the Rishikesh Yoga Teacher Training Center.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was your training in? What style? Hatha?
Yeah, Hatha and Ashtanga.
Amazing. Amazing. What was the experience like?
To this day, I still believe that it's the best thing that I've ever done.
Oh, wow. Wow. Why do you say that? What's the one thing why you say that?
I think at that time I was also kind of lost. I remember I was seeking yoga because I had a long-term relationship that ended. And then after graduating, you think you know what you want to do, but you don't know what you're doing. So everything's kind of, I did my master's actually because I was panicking after graduating from my bachelor's. I was like, oh no, I don't know what to do. Okay, let's just study again without even thinking. And then after my master's, I still went, oh no, I don't know what to do. So kind of felt lost at that time. And then when I did my training, I was like, oh, this is what I needed. And I met so many beautiful people in that course that to this day, I know people always say, oh, let's get connected, let's keep in contact.
And you are still in contact with some?
With some of them. And we actually did a retreat. I went to South Africa last year and I did a retreat with 2 of my classmates then in India.
Is that when I covered you kind of street?
Exactly. When you covered me for 4 weeks.
Yes, I'm deeply grateful. Thank you. Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, the most beautiful souls. I think everyone doing that training has a background or has a journey to why they did their training. But it was just so genuine and organic, and it's hard. It's harder to find that when you're out of that bubble as well. I know that, but I think that's why it was so good, because it was just a month of, you know, that sense of community and everyone's on the same level. yeah, it's beautiful. I would go back. I would.
Amazing, yeah. It's on my to-do list, definitely, to do a training in India at some future point. I would love to do that. So do you remember how many people were on the training?
You know, when I saw your questions,
Mm-hmm.
I actually looked at the photo, kind of, you know, the last day photo, and I was like, oh, how many people?
20
There were roughly, yeah, I think there were roughly 40 of us.
Okay.
But we were split into 2 groups. So
Okay.
all of the classes we did kind of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I had to count, because I was like, oh, I don't remember how many of us, because we were split.
And were people from all over the world as well?
Yeah, quite international, actually. I think from what I can remember, there were only maybe 4 or 5 that were from the UK or Ireland.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then the rest were international, yeah.
And from the 40 people, how many were, including you, how many were of colour?
I think 10 of us.
10, okay. It's a good number.
Yeah, because I was counting on the photos. Yeah. But yeah, definitely there were 10 of us. I don't know if there were more than 40 of us, but there were 10 of us.
Definitely 10 of colour.
Yeah.
Good number.
But the amazing thing about doing your training in India is all your teachers are Indians.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they are local to that town and that city as well, which is, you know,
yeah, definitely
irreplaceable.
Yeah, it's something to definitely be valued. Definitely.
You should go.
Definitely. It's on
the first moment that lockdowns lifted, where the pandemic's lifted.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to check the piggy bank. Anyway, coming back to your journey. Thank you so much for sharing. So now we're going to move on to the wellness industry and thinking of highs and lows for you. You know, this is from your perspective, and I always like yogis to start with the lows and then end with the highs, if there are any. So when you think of the wellness industry, if I said to you, what lows come to mind, what comes to mind for you?
Instantly, for me, it's being a freelance.
Okay.
That might not be a low. I have been a freelancer since I graduated anyway, because even a dancer is still freelance, but I think I love it so much that I wish there's more stability to it in terms of hours, and not just even hours, in terms of, I would love to put all my effort in a studio and get to know the clients properly and develop into a journey, instead of, I understand why different studios have different teachers for variety and styles, and but to have that journey with your students, for me, that is what I want and what I'm trying to achieve when I do teach anyway, to get that sense of community. So for me to be running around different studios and different people, I just I wish it's possible not to. Yeah, I think that's kind of the main and instant thing that would always pop up. Yeah, and again, it's more of the relationship with the students rather than, I guess, the stability of hours or stability of income. It's just, I wish there's more of a journey with the students.
Okay. And what are your highs?
Highs. That you're involved in a community with like-minded people. I always find it hard, or it's not as easy to talk to others who are not part of that journey that you've been to connect as well. I remember coming back from India, even talking to my best friends, I realized that there was a shift in me and my view and my perspective. And I didn't realize how much, even though it was only a month, I didn't realize how much of that shift that I actually kind of stepped back and stood back, and I was like, oh, I don't know if there's some people that I'm like, I don't know if we can be, I don't know if I still want you in my life, not in a bad way, but in just energetically. And
yes, I hear you loud and clear.
Because I'm the type of person that would love to talk to everyone, and I want to get to know everyone and get involved with everyone, but I realized that I can't keep that up, and had to start limiting.
Exhausting.
Yeah, exhausting. Very exhausting. So I think that's
the high. Did you break away? You mentioned, the shift in the relationships. Did you break away from any because you'd noticed a change in you and that interaction with others?
Yeah. There are some relationships before that I already kind of knew that it wasn't a positive one, mentally, energetically, emotionally, but I kind of held on to it because that's a good thing to do, right? Like you keep trying, or you keep working on something, and I don't like to let go of people, but I realized that it was so draining for me that it's not healthy anymore. And I don't think like both sides were interested anyway.
Right.
I just felt like I don't know, I had to, I think.
And you felt better?
Definitely feel better to have smaller bubble of people that I really know.
Yes.
And have similar qualities and beliefs and philosophies. I know that people have different opinions, but there are, at a certain point, I think I just can't get along with some people now, which before I would adapt to.
Good for you, because it's not always easy to do that, but you were able to. So yeah, well done you.
Thank you. It was the hardest thing, but
you did it.
Yeah,
you did it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now moving to lockdown. When I wrote this question, it was about the March lockdown, and then we had November lockdown, and here we are again in lockdown 3. So how have you got through each of the lockdowns, and have they felt different for you? So this is now your lockdown journey.
The first lockdown, I think the first 2 weeks of lockdown, I said, oh, I can breathe. I was thankful for it. Because I said, with what we're doing, we always run and look for more jobs, look for more clients, because we want to share more, not because we feel that we need to or we have to, but because we enjoy it and we want more of it. So when lockdown happened, I was kind of glad that I didn't need to, even though I should just for myself do it, that if I need a break, I should have a break. But this was kind of a universal sign that you need to take a break.
Yeah.
So I was glad the first lockdown. And then as the weeks go on, I don't even remember how long the first lockdown was already. There was a bit of a struggle, but not as much as the third lockdown for me.
This current one.
This lockdown for me was the hardest. The second one was short. I was a bit gutted that I couldn't spend Christmas with my like the rest of my family, because Christmas is such a big deal for us. So I was gutted in that sense, but I understood why we had to do it. But the third lockdown, this one is so tough. So tough for me, I think.
In what respect? Share why this one is more tough than the others.
I don't know if it's also the beginning of the year. That's why it's tough. I always say that I don't like to make resolutions every year, because that time frame doesn't really mark if you want to improve or if you want to do better things. But there is that pressure of a new year, especially that the whole pandemic happened. There is a different kind of pressure this year that needs resolving. I don't know if it's because the beginning of the year and I feel like I want to do more things. But I think it's mainly because of the uncertainty of it. I don't mind being in lockdown if I know how long, what I can do, what I can't do. But even up to now, I can't plan going back to the Philippines, for example, and
Of
see my
course.
family. It's those tiny things that I take for granted that I can just, look ahead and look forward to something. But now it's so hard to do. So I think that for me is the hardest. It's because I can't plan anything. Like even when I'm not doing anything now, normally I would like search, plan for a retreat, plan for a workshop, do something. But now I can't even do that. I can't prepare for what's coming after lockdown because I don't know when it's going to happen. So that feeling of uncertainty for me is the hardest.
Well,
it just feels like it keeps going on and on.
I know it does, but
and you know the only positive thing is the vaccine, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
And that community, the community you say is the high of, the wellness industry and, the whole community we have around us. So it's tapping into that. So I hope you can find a way through and reach out if you ever want to. Happy to chat if ever. Okay, so last few questions coming up. So rest in peace, George Floyd. If you can cast your mind back to the summer when he was killed, and then the Black Lives Matter protests, everybody was recommended to diversify the feeds. So, you were, understanding more about people of color. Did you notice increases in your social media followers?
To be honest, I'm not as active in social media anyway.
Okay.
So not really, because even regular followers slow for me.
Right.
That I noticed that there's an increase of conversation, and I know that a lot of my friends, there's also an increase of people like asking questions and that kind of stuff. But in terms of followers, not really. In terms of awareness, which is a good thing, yes, but I've also noticed a lot of my friends, and I guess even myself, that got frustrated a bit during that time. To be honest, because my friends are saying, like, we've been trying to put this forward for so many years. And they kind of already said, you know what, I'm done trying to explain. If you want more information, go do your research, go do this.
Do the work.
Do the work, exactly. Like we've done our bit since we were born, So I think there were a few kind of, I know, like for our batch in our school, actually, we wrote a letter towards the school. We just signed whoever wanted to be part of that letter, just asking what they're doing to diversify the school, the teachers. It was a big
your dance school.
Yeah, our dance school. So there were a lot of conversations between me and my friends and different the schools and different kind of organizations, like little communities, not like big organizations. So I noticed that.
Are you able to share the response from the dance school? Were you pleased with the response, and has the response and the reality tallied?
I know that I didn't realize then. So I guess I was also part. I didn't realize then how, I guess I knew, but I wasn't as aware now, because I guess I'm also older. But I know that, for example, in dance, when you have costumes or when you go to a performance, you normally wear, this is very simple and very, like straightforward explanation. You normally wear skin-colored underwear, so that when you do have something, then it doesn't show, whatever.
Of course, yeah.
And apparently, I didn't even know, I have, I think she was a year older than me, and she was darker than me, a lot darker than me. And she actually came to the costumes department, asking for this, garment that should match her skin, and they didn't have any. I know it's so sick.
Oh, I've lost you. I think I lost you for a moment.
Am I back?
You are back. Can you back up to your friend who's darker than you? She couldn't get her skin colored garment in the wardrobe team, from the wardrobe team.
Yeah.
And have they amended that since? Ooh, come back. I think I know what it is. Oh, she's gone. You're back!
I didn't even realize.
Amazing. Okay. So carry on with your wardrobe story.
Yeah. So my friend, they didn't have the correct color for her skin color with that garment, and I didn't even know that was a thing before. And apparently, she already kind of raised that awareness when we were still in school, but nothing was done. I mean, it's not that hard to, dye a garment. It's so simple, but I know it's a tiny thing, but these little things I wasn't aware of. And
but those are the exact little things that need to be addressed,
exactly.
So let's hope now that they do have an array.
And even with teachers, though, I've seen the recent kind of, just on Instagram, they do have teachers that have more, they've got more diversified teachers, so that is good.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so they are doing the job. They're doing the job.
Definitely, and George Floyd's legacy, may he always rest in peace, but I think he made the world sit up and realize that, racism is real, and helping everybody to, do their work to be anti-racist every day, not just for, a set period of time. So, yeah. So, just before any final questions. So if you're watching this on catch up, you can post a question in the comments box, and Kat will get that question and reply to you. So please do ask a question if you're watching on catch up. So finally, Kat, I appreciate you saying you can't plan so much at the moment for 2021 because of the lockdown, but just for a minute, pretend lockdown's not there. What would you like to have put in place for 2021?
I would definitely love to run a retreat, because I was going to have a retreat. It was supposed to be in March of last year, and then lockdown happened literally just before. I think it was April. So it was all planned and everything, and then lockdown happened, obviously. It was just going to be in Wales.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would love to do a retreat at some point. And I am looking forward to developing my own thing, even though I know it's hard to develop your own thing, but
when you say own thing, what is the thing?
As I said early on, I'm quite creative and I like to be creative.
Yes.
during or in between classes, I would either paint or do my macrame, which is kind of the knotting, or like similar to knitting but without the needles. And I want to find a way to kind of put it all in one platform. Yeah, so that's kind of the dream.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. How did you get into macrame?
I wanted to actually learn how to knit because I didn't know how to knit. And I would always get on the tube when I'm studying or working. It took me so long to get there. So when I read, I get like motion sickness. So I wanted to find something that I can do that still has that same feeling of mindfulness or being in my own space. I wanted to learn how to knit. And I actually got a book. My partner gave me a book on how to knit, and then when I was Googling stuff to knit, macrame showed up, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I think this is more me. So I didn't use the book that my partner gave. And I bought more macrame books. Yeah, just because it feels like that I'm more connected to it. It's more organic because I'm using my hands instead of needles. So it just resonated with me more.
And what's the best fabric to use, or material I should say, for macrame?
It's normally cotton, so it's soft in the hands. But some people use jute, for example, with that as well.
Yeah, that must be quite therapeutic because you're like close to nature, I guess, as well.
Yeah, it is. So I do my affirmations as I do them, because after a while it's similar to knitting, that it's patterns, right? So after a while your hands just do them, you don't even need to think. So that's
and do you sell pieces? So come on, where can we buy your macrame pieces from?
You can buy them on my website. So at the moment it's www.whynotme.co.uk, and the
Why
not
not
is with
me?
Yes, why not me?
Very clever name. Like it.
Yeah, my wish for that website is to promote self-care. So why not me? Why not yourself? Why don't you prioritize yourself?
Yeah, like it. Why not me? Like it. Very good. Yeah. Okay. So do you have any final shares? Anything you may have forgot from earlier? Anything that's come to mind? Any parting thoughts?
It's already on MoreYoga's Instagram, but I have recently topped up on my yin training.
Bravo.
I know, and I'm thinking of doing my restorative soon as well. It's one of those things that when I remember actually my first yin class, it's the only class that makes me emotional, like literally in tears.
Wow.
A yin class. Wow. I know. I remember the first yin class I've done, and I was in tears after. But then after that, I didn't really know a lot about it. And again, I told you that I was used to movement. But then I realized how important it is to find stillness after all the movement. Yeah. And then I fell in love, and now I'm in love with yin. So always that balance that you need, I guess.
That's the yin and yang, right?
Exactly.
Great. Well, it's been a pleasure hearing your journey, Kat. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with us.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Wish you all the very best for the rest of the year and navigating the rest of this lockdown. So thank you so much, and do take good care. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And the next yoga journey on the 22nd of February is with Astra Farquharson, who is at therapy yoga. So that is our next yoga journey, 22nd of February. Thanks once again to Kat. Take care.
Thank you.